You're tuned into Liberty Storm. I'm your host, Shane Krauser, here with my sidekick, Chappie.
Hello.
What is that? What are you doing when you say that? I mean,
I am Lindsay Lohan. Now go look up Ahmed, the dead terrorist, and you'll know what it is.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
No, I'm not going to say. Ahmed. Oh, hey, well, this is, we still haven't come up with our little Thursday deal. You know, it's Manic Monday, Tyrannical Tuesday, We the People Wednesday, Freedom Friday. Thursday's just kind of...
It's Thursday.
It's Thursday. We're making it happen. I'll tell you what, Chappie, I'm very excited about tomorrow. We're going to be out at one of the schools in the East Valley shooting some film
My
for...
goodness, so much fun.
is going to be used in the Gilbert Public Schools during Constitution Week, and the hope is obviously to take that and really move that throughout the country to allow these students a forum, an opportunity to learn about these ideas that perhaps they haven't heard about before.
Yeah.
Like, you know, republic versus democracy, the idea that the power lies within the people. So we're going to be talking about that, and it's going to be a great time tomorrow morning. I don't know about you.
I'm excited.
Do you have your outfit all squared away?
Man, you know I do.
Are you gonna come in your overalls?
I'm gonna look for some overalls. I don't have any overalls personally, but I'm looking for. Hey, anybody have any overalls out there that I can borrow for one day? I'd certainly appreciate it. No, I'm serious.
You better be really big.
Yeah. Oh wow! Come on, man. Are you suggesting that I am a large man?
I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just. Hey, we've got lots to talk about today. We go right to our guest in studio with us. Is Wendy Rogers. She is a candidate for U.S. Congress trying to unseat Kyrsten Sinema. She's a wife, mother, retired Air Force lieutenant colonel, and a business owner. She joins us right here today to talk about this rundown in the primaries for that particular race in CD9. Wendy, thanks so much for joining us.
It's an honor to be here.
Very well. You know, what did we see each other 3 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago, a little debate action going on with your opponent.
It was a great time. We had 100 people in the audience. You have quite a following, don't you?
Well, a lot of good things are happening. A lot of good things are
every
happening.
week you have I can't even find a spot in the parking lot.
Well, I tell you, that has been one of the concerns out there at the Burke Basic School is the lack of parking, because we fill that parking lot up pretty quickly, and it's really creating a forum that individuals can come to and feel like they're a part of the grassroots effort and empowering them to do something. So it was great to have you there and debating with Andrew Walter and allowing people to make their own decision as to where we want to go as a country. I mean, isn't that what this election is about, just that, in 2014? Where do you want to go as a country? Make the decision.
Right, and I have to just take a step back and compliment you on the format. I've received numerous comments on how helpful your Lincoln-Douglas style debate format is. 2 minutes for one person to speak, no interruptions. 2 minutes for the other person to speak, and then come back and forth one time again. You can formulate your ideas that way. You can get input from the audience that way. It is civil. It's substantive. And it was absolutely my favorite forum to be at.
Well, I appreciate that. You know, I think when you talk about the Lincoln-Douglas style of debate, I think that's critical. If we're truly going to restore this nation, there's a number of ingredients that are essential to doing just that. And I think one of those things has to be bringing in candidates, allowing them to do something other than just stump. And when you allow that dialogue to go back and forth on a stage, I think that's important, because now you're moving away from that canned speech, if you will. I mean, we all have our talking points. We all do. But now engaging one another, engaging the opposition, if you will, and engaging the audience. So it really is a lot of fun.
I enjoyed it. And it also gave me a chance to, put my thoughts together in a coherent way where I'm not just reacting. I'm able to really project what our campaign is all about, which, of course, is getting the government out of the way of the market. I had one of my employees just stop in today, and I hadn't seen him in a while, and we were catching up. We own a home inspection company, and it's a privilege in the United States of America to be able to create jobs, to be able to make payroll, and it pains me deeply to see the government making it more and more difficult with taxation, regulation, litigation, which Obamacare is all of the above of. And that's just one thing that I will go to Congress to try and make a dent into. And then, of course, doing everything we can to secure the border, enforce the rule of law, and thirdly, to promote American exceptionalism abroad, which is woefully lacking right now.
So right now we have the Republican primary coming up here. The early ballots are out, and we've got two individuals running in this primary as Republicans, you and Andrew Walter. Tell our listeners what makes you different from Andrew Walter. Why is it that they should vote for you, those folks that are out in Congressional District 9?
I've led a life of service. I want to serve my country again. I'm a fifth-generation officer in my family to serve as a career officer. And I've met a payroll now and continue to do so and have for the past 17 years, as I mentioned. These are two attributes of background that we are sorely lacking in Congress. Congress is comprised now of only 19% veterans. In 1960, it was 80% veterans.
In 1960?
It was 80%.
That's amazing.
And so you have to question why we have these problems at the Phoenix VA, which is in my district, which my husband and I both use. And we can get to that later if you like. But you asked what I bring to the table. I bring success in business. I bring leadership as having been privileged to be one of the first 100 women pilots in the Air Force. And I want to serve my country. I promised my father that I would the day I lost him. I have promised my family. My husband and I have been married 36 years. We have two wonderful now adult children and two grandchildren now. And I do this for them.
And, you know, we do need people in Congress that are willing to go in and literally be bulldogs in every sense of the word, to stand in that congressional well and make it very clear what needs to happen. This whole idea of adherence to the Constitution, I think, is more critical now than ever. Wendy, do you see there being a constitutional crisis going on in this country? And if the answer is yes, how do we fix it from your perspective?
I do, and the best we can do is to win the Senate and have more Republicans in the House so that we can attempt to hold back and rein in this imperious President Obama.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing to watch what it is that is going on. And, you know, there are some folks out there that laugh that Congress would stand up and file a lawsuit against him, or that Congress would stand up in the congressional well, certain members of Congress, and make a big deal out of it. I quite frankly don't find it funny, even though there are individuals on the other side that find it absolutely hilarious that they would do these types of things. And I think what you have more and more are people at the grassroots level calling out for adherence to the rule of law. We've now seen what it's like to live in a country where our leaders don't adhere to the rule of law. We've seen it happen over the last 20, 30 years, but we've really seen it concentrated over the last 6, without question. And we can argue policy all we want, but we have a president that's made it very clear that if he can't get it done by playing by the rules, he'll act unilaterally because his policies supersede that of his oath.
He also has a penchant for not being engaged internationally, which sends very scary signals to our adversaries. There is a vacuousness to his policy, and that's resulted in us not holding firm and having to go back to Iraq. Now we have nearly almost, 900, nearly 1,000 Americans serving again in Iraq. Why is this? We should have stayed there to some extent to have prevented ISIS from this scourge that they are making in Iraq. This ISIS entity, I guess you could call it, is 10,000 armed men. 10,000. And yet now the United States of America needs to go back in with advisors and so forth to stem the tide.
Right.
And I know we're probably coming up on a break, but I'd like to talk about what boots on the ground really means.
Well, let's talk about that because I think what is interesting here, you're talking about a president that's asleep at the wheel, and I think that's probably a little tongue-in-cheek, but the reality is he is spending all of this time golfing. He's over 70 rounds of golf since he's been the president. He's spending all of this time at fundraisers, and we have a world that is on fire, literally on fire. Individuals dying that we made a decision that we agree or disagree, we made a decision we were going to be involved, and now we've got to live with those decisions, and we've got a country that is so divisive right now, trying to negotiate these issues, and we have no real leadership that's standing up. That leader is out raising money because what is he concerned about? Just like Thomas Sowell told us, individuals in office tend to be concerned about two things, elections and re-elections, and we see that's exactly the case here. He wants to maintain power within that party, so it's more important for him to appear at that fundraiser than to deal with these tragedies that are going on throughout the world. So as you talk about boots on the ground, what do you see happening? If you are elected as a member of Congress, what do you want to see happen here?
Well, first of all, let's talk about what boots on the ground means. All the politicians and the spokesman for the administration are saying, we're not going to have boots on the ground. Excuse me? When you put Americans in harm's way and they start being fired upon, the rules of engagement are for them to be able to fire back. That's called boots on the ground in my book. I had the privilege of overseeing the Bosnian airlift in 1994 when I was deployed. And it was the same situation. We were going into Sarajevo and different parts of Bosnia. We were airdropping necessary rations to people who were stranded, just as we're doing now. And advisors were going in on the ground. That's boots on the ground, folks. I don't care what a politician says. Ask someone in uniform.
Wendy, do you see this as a non-negotiable for you when we're talking about military force and the amount of money that we are spending on our military? There's a lot of talk out there, including this president, who's talked about this. Let's reduce the amount of money that we're spending on the military. Let's reduce what it is that we have ready to rock and roll. We don't need to have a powerful military. Given that you come from a military background, you are a pilot in the Air Force, is this a non-negotiable for you?
It's kind of, you're asking a micro question and a macro question the way I hear it. First of all, if you're going to start something, you need to conclude it successfully and give the fighting man and woman what he and she need to conduct the operation and do it properly and have it hold. As far as should we cut expenditures or not, that has to be a strategic, now from the macro point of view to answer your question, that has to be in the strategic best interests of the United States of America. So on the micro level, you have to give the fighting person what he or she needs. On the macro level, it has to be in the strategic best interest of the United States of America. So you dovetail those two things together to put together your strategy and your tactics. Long story short, some of these pieces of equipment and machinery that ISIS has are American-made. Many of them are. I was just reading last night in the Washington Post that they might work for a little while, but they have no maintenance people to keep them up. So we do have an advantage in terms of striking them from the air and thwarting their advance. But why do they have this equipment? Because it was left behind by the Iraqis. Why was it left behind by the Iraqis? Because we arguably maybe didn't stay there to get the complete job done.
And of course, we were told by this president that that Al-Qaeda had been decimated. They were no longer a threat. And so that was the justification. We're finding out that that was not, either that was an out-and-out lie or it was just bad information. Either one, it's bad leadership.
Well, and this is a stronger, more dangerous offshoot, if you will, of the Al-Qaeda mindset. You have Al-Qaeda guerrillas jumping ship from Al-Qaeda to join ISIS.
Yeah.
Again, this is, and I say the word only in quotes, but this is only 10,000 fighters, yet look at the havoc that
They're
it
brutal.
is wreaking.
Yeah, absolutely brutal. Let's switch gears here for just a moment. One of the things that you've been criticized for, Wendy, is this, and we've read about it, we've heard about it, we've seen you all argue about it, is this whole idea of Social Security. I think there's some scare tactics being utilized that you would phase out or get rid of Social Security. So let me just step back and ask you the question. Do you think that the Social Security program is constitutionally permissible?
Social Security has been upheld by the Supreme Court as being constitutional. In fact, what also the Supreme Court has said in the Fleming decision in 1960 is that Congress could, with the stroke of a pen, decide to do something else with its money, which is scary.
So let me
it's
ask
not
you this.
constitutionally guaranteed is my answer to your question.
So if you were sitting on the Supreme Court in the Fleming decision, you would have been a dissenter. Is that fair enough that you would say, hey, wait a second, it may sound like a good program, but I don't believe the Constitution provides for it. Would you have been a dissenter in that decision?
I would have been a dissenter, yes.
Huh.
And so the long and the short of it is it's not constitutionally guaranteed, so Congress could do with it what it wants. That's why I have made the case and the clarification with numerous voters that you should send someone like Wendy Rogers to Congress to protect it. I've paid into Social Security for over 40 years. I just turned 60. I run 2 miles a day, so I'm very fit. But I've paid into it for all of my adult working life. And half of people on Social Security depend on Social Security. That's why you have to send someone to Congress who understands it and who will defend it and protect it. Now, having said that, we have to have an adult conversation on making it sustainable.
You know, that's absolutely critical here.
The disability portion of Social Security, according to the Wall Street Journal, starts to run dry in 2016. And the pension portion of Social Security begins to run dry as of today in 2030. That affects us, those of us alive right now. And it needs to be looked at and made sustainable. And who better than to do that than someone who meets a payroll every 2 weeks?
In studio with us, Wendy Rogers, running for Congressional District 9, trying to unseat Kyrsten Sinema. You can find out more at wendyrogers.org. That's wendyrogers.org. And I have to say, Wendy, we're going to come back on the other side and continue this conversation. But I really like what you just said. Let's have an adult conversation, because sometimes those of us that believe programs are unconstitutional, I will tell you that I believe Social Security is fundamentally unconstitutional if you look at the text of the document. I know the Supreme Court has said something else. But nevertheless, it exists. How do we deal with it in light of the fact that it exists? You can't just wave a wand and say it's going away. We've got to have an adult conversation about how we deal with this, because you're right. People have been putting money into this program for decades, right? We're not just going to cut off the program and say, hey, sorry, and leave you out to dry. That simply cannot happen. So we really need to have people there in office that are willing to negotiate these ideas. You may disagree with them, but they exist. How do we deal with them in light of the oath that you will ultimately take if you're elected to Congress? So we come back on the other side more with Wendy Rogers. We want to extend a special invitation to you for next Tuesday evening. Freedom Fires Live out at Burke Basic School. Our guest is going to be Tom Horn. He's running for re-election. Attorney General. And so he'll be there with us, and I'll be presenting as well during the evening on going on the offensive. You've never heard this presentation before. Would love to have you there to hear about exactly how we do that. Go on the offensive using the Republican Party platform, using the Constitution, and just using basic commonsensical notions. So mark your calendar, next Tuesday night, 6:30, 131 East Southern in Mesa at the Burke Basic School. Again, that's 131 East Southern in Mesa. FreedomFires.com. You can find out all the information that you need. That's freedomfires.com. You're listening to Liberty Storm. I'm Shane Krauser, and we're coming back to talk a little bit more with Wendy Rogers. Stay tuned.
Are you over the constant negativity left and right? Have you watched our nation and asked, what can I do? FreedomFires.com has the solutions and answers you are seeking. Come be a part of the cultural change at FreedomFires.com.
America's best days are ahead. Hi, I'm Shane Krauser. Together at FreedomFires.com, we can ignite the brush fires of freedom once again. Let's get to work. That's FreedomFires.com. America is truly exceptional, and she deserves to be defended in the face of a rogue and runaway government. As respecters of freedom, we must commit to raising the banner of freedom for all to see. Hi, this is Shane Krauser, the director of the American Academy for Constitutional Education. And when I'm not on the air with Liberty Storm, I'm traveling the country, spending time on college campuses, going into our public schools, participating in your neighborhood meetings, speaking at rallies, engaging the churches, uniting the grassroots, and even going into the lion's den of Washington, D.C. The American Academy needs your help to carry this message and wants to partner with you to continue to ensure that the momentum shift towards more freedom and less government has longevity. Inspire your group and give them the tools and education to move this message forward. Schedule us to speak at your next event by visiting us at aafce.com. America's best days are yet to come. That's aafce.com.
AJI Sporting Goods, the East Valley source to buy, sell, and trade quality firearms. AJI is family run, has the selection and services gun owners are seeking. AJI Sporting Goods, what a gun shop should be. 10444 East Apache Trail, quarter-mile west of Signal Butte. See our ad at libertystormradio.com. Leilani Cortez, candidate LD24. Mrs. Cortez has 43 years private sector experience and a heart for her community. Cortez for our children, our community, our future. Vote Cortez.com. Paid for by Cortez LD24.
I'm Diane Douglas. I'm the only conservative Republican running for Superintendent of Public Instruction who opposes the Obama administration's Common Core program. My primary challenger, John Huppenthal, fully supports Common Core, but now he's claiming that he doesn't. Huppenthal referred to moms and dads as barbarians for daring to question Common Core. Obama's education czar, Arne Duncan, and Huppenthal toured Arizona together to showcase Common Core. His support of Common Core puts lobbyists, his cronies, and campaign donors' interests ahead of Arizona parents. Google the 3 words, Huppenthal, Common Core, to read what he really believes. I'm Diane Douglas. I'm running for Superintendent of Public Instruction to stop Common Core and return local control to Arizonans. I'm asking for your vote.
Paid for by Elect Diane Douglas primary.
Arizona News Radio. A family allegedly on a drug deal leads authorities on a high-speed chase in Phoenix before their car crashes. A man, his fiancée, his brother, and 2 young children in a car that was allegedly going 100 miles an hour.
They had made some kind of transaction with drugs, possibly marijuana, and as they were traveling along the 51, the reasons were given for the speed by the driver, but they definitely intended to evade law enforcement.
Raul Garcia with DPS as a 4-month-old suffered minor injuries. Gas prices in the state still declining.
Well, good news to report this week. Gas prices have maintained a steady downward decline. If you look at the statewide average, we're down almost 3 cents to $3.48 per gallon.
Michelle Donati with AAA Arizona says prices are about a penny higher than the national average. Memorial services at this hour for Gary Johnstone, the off-duty Phoenix firefighter killed last week in a rappelling accident in Echo Canyon. 15-year-old Trevor Krause was also killed. Geico weather, drying in the deserts, possible rain up north. Jeff Scott, Arizona News.
This check of your KVNX traffic, a service of Heritage for the Blind. We still have that closure on the off-ramp in Chandler, westbound Loop 202 at Alma School. Look for an accident blocking the HOV lane, southbound State Route 51 near Coulter. And we have a crash, 19th Avenue, this one at Dunlap. Be a star and donate your car to Heritage for the Blind. Call 1-800-DONATE-CARS or 1-800-446-1234. Here's your Thursday afternoon forecast.
Hi, everybody. Chet Reynolds from the KFNX Weather Center. Well, dry conditions in the valley will create a slight heating trend through the weekend. Today, we'll have sunny skies with a high of 102. Tonight, mostly clear with a low of 81. Chet Reynolds, Independent Talk, 1100 KFNX.
Currently here in Midtown, 98 degrees. Next news in 30 minutes or when it breaks. Coming up, more Liberty Storm with your host, Shane Krauser. You're listening to Independent Talk, 1100 KFNX. I'm Chet Reynolds, and you're up to date.
Freedom is only one generation away from extinction, but you can save it in an entertaining way by rediscovering the U.S. Constitution through a fun game. Constitution Quest is not your average board game. It's a way to gather your family and friends and enjoy learning about our system of limited government, separation of powers, and the three branches of legislative, judicial, and executive power. For the next generation, a strong knowledge of civics is a must-have. Go to ConstitutionQuest.com and order your Constitution Quest game today.
Part of changing America is changing the culture, and there's no better place to get involved in this fight than the Liberty Store. Hi, this is Shane Krauser, the director of the American Academy for Constitutional Education, and I'm standing right with you in the fight for America. As you know, I believe the most important battle today is the cultural one, and that's why I'm so excited about the Liberty Store. SKLibertyStore.com. Cool t-shirts, polos and tank tops, ties, hats, flags, learning materials such as CDs and DVDs, my book, Your Nation to Save, constitutions and copies of the Declaration of Independence, and fun toys and gadgets. Of course, my personal favorite is the shirt with We the People printed on the front. You want to get into conversations with people on the streets about America and our country's direction? That shirt will do it. The Liberty Store will equip you with everything you need to participate in the most important battle of our lifetime. Check out all of this stuff at SKLibertyStore.com. That's SKLibertyStore.com. America's one-stop freedom shop.
AJI Sporting Goods is the East Valley's premier gun and accessory supplier. Jeff and daughters have made AJI the store they would want to shop at and spend their hard-earned money. From the huge selection to the in-house gunsmith, AJI Sporting Goods does business the old-fashioned way, with great customer service, fair prices, and the best trade values in the Valley. AJI Sporting Goods, what a gun shop should be. 10444 East Apache Trail, 1/4 mile west of Signal Butte, and see our ad at libertygroupdirectory.com.
All right, folks, welcome back. You're tuned into Liberty Storm, and I got people doing air guitars and everything else as we move back into the second segment with Wendy Rogers, who's running for U.S. Congress out of Congressional District 9, attempting to unseat Kyrsten Sinema, the Democrat. So let's go right back to this. Wendy Rogers, you can find out more information about you at wendyrogers.org. That's wendyrogers.org. Coming down to crunch time at this point.
We're having a great time at the campaign. We're in the heart of the district. Just for those of you who don't know, we're at 3030 South Rural in the heart of Tempe, which is the middle of the district. It's our neighborhood. It's where we've raised our children and where we do business, rural and southern. And we've had a lot of folks come in and man the phones. We have a state-of-the-art Victory phone system where we can call, and I would just extend that invitation to all of you listening. We'd be honored for you to come in and just make, say, for example, 2 hours of phone calls. It's an enlightening experience to talk to voters out there. It's very important, too. We tell them to please get their ballots in because there's a low turnout still so far. But before I forget, if you're at all interested to come to our office at 3030 South Rural, you can go to our website, wendyrogers.org, and respond, or give us a call. Here is our number, 480-525-2929. Again, 480-525-2929. And just give us a call, and we'll get right back to you and have you plug in. Just yesterday, I was picking up my dry cleaning in Tempe at Broadway and Rural. And my dry clean owner said, "Here, Wendy, talk to Ron. Ron is a Democrat." I said, "Hey, Ron, I'm Wendy Rogers." He said, "Wendy, I'm glad to meet you. I did just vote in the Democrat primary, and of course I voted for Kyrsten Sinema because she's the only one running. But in the general, I'm really open to change."
You mean the real kind of change?
Yeah. And I said, well, I would be honored to have you consider me, wendyrogers.org. My business is just down the street. And he said, well, thank you for that, but it's really a matter of what has President Obama done in the last 2 to 4 years for me as, a worker in this economy? And I said, Yep.
Yeah, and I think that's becoming more and more obvious. And I've talked to you about this before, Wendy, just some of my own students out at the college where I've been teaching for a decade. These young people, we have this perception that they don't care, they're not involved, or they're not listening. The young people, even in junior high and high school, they sense something is terribly wrong. They maybe can't put their finger right on that problem, but they sense something is wrong. I mean, I have young children. Of course, we talk about these ideas, but they sense that something is wrong. And what are we going to do about this or that? And I'm talking about 5, 6, 7-year-old kids asking questions because they sense something just intuitively that it's wrong.
And on the heels of that, independents now have requested, in this case, more Republican ballots than ever before. I think the number in my district alone is in the thousands. And so that bespeaks involvement. Why is someone independent? Really, I've knocked on 13,000 doors over the years, and it ranges from someone who's been in the party and then withdrawn, or someone who's never been in a party and has decided not to be involved. Nonetheless, there is also an overarching range of philosophy. You have left, middle, and right-leaning independents. My point is you can't generalize about independents. But the takeaway from what's happening now is more of them want to be involved. It used to be only, 7% voted in the primary. Now we have a much higher number this year. And it's wonderful, especially because it's not even a presidential year. You have a midterm election that's arguably historic and pivotal and really a harbinger of things to come. And so concurrently, you have independents now who want to be a part of that, and I love that.
And along those lines, we're concerned about what's going on at the border. All these unaccompanied children coming across, a border that's not secure, a president that's engaging or at least threatening to engage in executive amnesty. And I think he's already done that to a large degree up to this point, but now is threatening to amplify what he's already done. What are you going to do if you're elected to Congress about this border problem?
I am going to do everything in my power to enforce the law, to shut down the border and expedite these children to be returned to their rightful home.
And so there's no question you want to secure that border. What should happen to? I mean, I want to talk a little bit from a broader perspective here than just the unaccompanied children. How do we start dealing with the problem of individuals that have been here for decades that were born to illegal parents? How do we deal with those people? And I don't pretend, Wendy, that this is an easy question and that there are easy answers, because quite frankly, it's not easy. Right, when you're dealing with human beings, if we're going to sit back and talk behind closed doors about and talk philosophy or ideology, okay, that's easy. But when you're talking about correcting the problem, I've never pretended that it's easy.
I don't think we can have that conversation yet until we secure the border. And I get this question a lot from all ends of the spectrum, but the fundamental truth is you can't have that conversation yet until you secure the border and enforce the rule of law. And I was reading last night, Governor Perry sent 1,000 National Guard troops to the border. They're not really arresting people. They're not doing anything. In fact, they have a lesser role than the Border Patrol does. So, and I'm not sure who's going to pay for it. It's not enforcing the law yet, though. We can't do that until the federal government decides to enforce the law.
And I hope that we see more and more individuals going to Washington, D.C. that are willing to work with the state legislatures and the governor as well as we deal with this problem, especially being a border state. I think that's critical at this point in time that we have individuals out there not just representing more national interest, if you will, but dealing with the issue of state sovereignty and the 10th Amendment and truly going out there and representing the people of Arizona. Well, Wendy, I want to thank you so much for being here. I wish you the best in your campaign. Again, wendyrogers.org. That's wendyrogers.org.
Thank you so much. And again, if you want to help us, the best way you can help us at wendyrogers.org is to come in and make phone calls for us so that we can reach voters so they'll vote.
Very good.
Saturday. Thank you.
This Saturday, you've got something going on? So
yes, sir. From 10 o'clock on, we have open phone bank Saturday. We call it Super Saturday, and we will feed you, and we will we'll support you to help us get the voters out.
So we're going to break, but I have to ask you a question here. Any thoughts on our next governor?
Wow.
No?
It's gonna be interesting. Sit back and enjoy the ride.
Fair enough, Wendy. Thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure to have you. When we come back on the other side, we're going to talk about the governor's race in Arizona. It's in full swing. 6 individuals. Who will our next